The Art of Happiness by Dalai Lama. Happiness that lasts can't come from outside sources, it comes from having the right attitude. How can we be happy for a long time? Most people agree that the point of life is to try to be happy. But for some reason, we often think of happiness as something mysterious and hard to explain, and we don't know what makes us happy. The Dalai Lama says that if you train your mind, you can learn how to be happier. External events can have a short-term effect on a person's happiness, but soon after the event, our happiness level tends to go back to a certain baseline. For example, winning the lottery only gives you a short-term high of happiness that usually wears off quickly. In the same way, people who have sudden and tragic health problems like cancer or paralysis usually get back to their old level of happiness after a period of grieving. So, it seems that in the long run, nothing outside of us can really change how happy we are. But the mind is a powerful tool. How we feel affects how we see the world in a big way. Think about how negative emotions can change how we see other people. For example, when we're angry, even close friends can seem annoying, cold, and mean. The Dalai Lama says that you can train your mind in a way that helps you recognize and grow positive mental states while getting rid of negative ones. Even though this is a slow and gradual process, it eventually leads to a calmness that lets you live a happy, joyful life no matter what is going on in the outside world. Happiness that lasts can't come from outside sources, it comes from having the right attitude. Having more compassion for everyone is one way to live a healthier and happier life. The Dalai Lama puts a lot of effort into helping people learn and grow compassion. It is an important part of Buddhist spiritual growth as well as of strong, long-lasting happiness. Compassion is a non-aggressive state of mind that involves wanting others to be free from pain. This wish is deep and shared, and it has nothing to do with personal feelings or attachments to certain people. Instead, it applies to all living things, whether they are friends or foes or even a fish on a hook. Research has shown that having a compassionate attitude is good for your mind and body. Some of these include getting an emotional high from helping others and getting a longer life expectancy. But the most noticeable thing about a compassionate person is how much warmth they show to everyone. They feel a strong connection with everyone, whether they are rich or poor, close friends or complete strangers. To develop compassion, you should try to be kind to other people and try to see things from their point of view. One way to do this is to learn about their pasts and focus on what you have in common with them. Say your taxi driver tries to charge you too much. Instead of getting mad, you could think about what you and the driver have in common, like being tired, hungry, and wanting to get home to your families. Then try to put yourself in their shoes and think about how you would feel. Most of the time, this helps you feel more empathy and less anger, which leads to more compassion and a happier life. Having more compassion for everyone is one way to live a healthier and happier life. The Western idea of romantic love can be too narrow and often isn't enough to make a relationship last. Having close, intimate relationships with other people is good for your physical and mental health, but the Western belief that you can only get close to someone deeply through a romantic relationship can be a problem. People who don't find this kind of relationship often feel sad and alone. But in reality, the idea of and limits on intimacy have changed a lot over time and across cultures, and the romantic Western definition of intimacy isn't the only way to be close. The Dalai Lama himself said that he felt close to many different people around him, like his teachers and cooks. He even talked about politics with a cleaner who was sweeping the floors. We can live happier lives if we take advantage of the many chances we have every day to connect with other people. When we get involved with other people, we often run into problems. In these situations, it's important to know what the relationships are really about. For example, romantic relationships that are based on sexual desire or on the Western ideal of being swept off your feet by love are unlikely to last if they don't have another, more permanent basis. On the other hand, relationships that last are built on respect and admiration for the other person. For this kind of relationship to work, you have to spend time getting to know the other person. No man or woman really knows what perfect love is until they have been married for 25 years, said Mark Twain. The Western idea of romantic love can be too narrow and often isn't enough to make a relationship last. Even though religious beliefs can help make you happy, you don't need them to be spiritual. Spirituality is an important part of living a happier life. Several studies have shown that having a strong religious belief is good for your health and makes your family happier. But, contrary to what many people think, spirituality is not tied to one religion. The Dalai Lama thinks that any of the world's major religions can help people live happier lives. In fact, there is a type of spirituality that has nothing to do with religion. Basic spirituality is made up of basic human qualities like goodness, compassion, and caring for each other. This type of spirituality can be reached by both religious and non-religious people. Adopting these traits brings us closer to everyone else and makes us calmer, happier, and more peaceful. The Dalai Lama spends about 4 hours a day on religious activities, but you don't need prayers or mantras to be spiritual. For example, if you find yourself in a situation where you want to insult someone, you can practice basic spirituality by fighting that urge and not giving into it. So, you can always improve your basic spirituality without having to pray for hours every day. Even though religious beliefs can help make you happy, you don't need them to be spiritual. Pain is a normal part of life, but we often make it worse without needing to. Suffering is a normal part of life for everyone. People in the East seem to accept this fact better than people in the West. This could be because people in Asia live closer to poverty and daily suffering than people in the West. Most people in the West don't understand that suffering is a part of life, and when something bad happens, they often blame it on some evil force. But we will all have to go through pain. For example, we will all get old and die. Avoiding or ignoring this fact is only a short-term fix. When you will inevitably go through some kind of pain, how you think about it is the most important thing. If you think that suffering is unfair and not natural, you will feel like a victim and try to find someone to blame when you should be trying to get rid of the mental causes of suffering. Pain is a natural part of life, but we often make it worse by putting ourselves through unnecessary pain on purpose. For example, Westerners often make the mistake of fighting change and holding on to the things they care about or own. But change is a constant and universal force. If we try to stop it, we will always lose the things we have been holding on to. Unnecessarily holding on to bad things that happened in the past, thinking about them over and over, and reliving the pain is another common cause of unnecessary suffering. For example, some people who have been divorced for decades are still very angry at their ex-spouses. By accepting that suffering is normal, you can face it and figure out why it's happening, including if you might be partly to blame, and start to live a happier life. Pain is a normal part of life, but we often make it worse without needing to. We can only get rid of bad thoughts, feelings, and habits if we keep working at it. The Dalai Lama thinks that negative emotions like anger and fear are obstacles that keep us from being happy, which is our natural state. They make you sick. But some positive states of mind, like love, compassion, patience, and generosity, can help get rid of these negative feelings, attitudes, and actions. So, to get rid of negativity, people should regularly develop positive feelings and actions. This is similar to the main ideas behind cognitive therapy in the West, where bad behaviors and ways of thinking are pointed out and, in a way, fixed. People who are depressed, for example, often have a skewed way of thinking. They may only think about the bad things in their lives, like problems at work or money problems, and forget that they have a lot to be happy about, like good health and a nice family. Studies have shown that when people fix these wrong ways of thinking, they feel better. It takes a long time and a lot of small steps to get rid of bad emotions and behaviors and replace them with good ones. To make good habits stick, you need to understand why a change is needed and then turn that understanding into the conviction and resolve to make the change. Then, if you keep working hard, you can make the change happen. The process of getting used to something can take a long time, so expecting a quick fix is not realistic. The Dalai Lama himself says that it took him 40 years of practice to really understand Buddhist ideas and ways of doing things. All 4 hours of his daily prayers remind him of how he wants to live his life. You can also learn to do things differently if you work hard and keep reminding yourself. We can only get rid of bad thoughts, feelings, and habits if we keep working at it. Learn how to change your point of view and look for the good in every situation. When people are in a bad situation, they tend to look at it very rigidly as if it were 100% bad. In general, though, most situations have both good and bad parts and can be seen from different points of view. For example, you could see having to sit next to an annoying person who farts a lot on a plane as a pure bad thing or as a chance to practice patience and tolerance. A switch like this can also help you find meaning in your suffering. When you face problems in your life, don't feel sorry for yourself and ask why me. Instead, see it as a chance to get stronger. Find meaning in your pain and you will do well. Having a supple mind, or some mental flexibility, makes it easier to see things from different points of view. Anyone can get better at this by trying to see things from different points of view when bad things happen. People with flexible minds are sometimes seen as not being able to make up their minds. After all, how can you stick to a rigid set of values and still be open to change? The Dalai Lama's solution was to boil down his value system to its most basic principles, which can be used in a wide range of everyday situations, rather than to specific rules that might be too restrictive and wrong in some situations. It takes time and work to learn how to find the good in bad things that happen. So, you need to start practicing right away. Just like a tree can't suddenly grow strong roots to survive a storm that's coming, you can't just decide to find meaning in a cancer diagnosis you just got. Learn how to change your point of view and look for the good in every situation. Face your anger and hatred, think about them, and replace them with patience and tolerance. Out of all the bad emotions, anger and hatred are the ones that keep people from being happy the most. When we feel angry or hateful, it quickly takes away our peace of mind. It also clouds our thinking, so we often do things that make the situation worse and make us even more angry. Studies have shown that having a tendency toward anger, rage, or hostility is also bad for your health. For example, it greatly increases your risk of getting heart disease. Hatred and anger can't be stopped by pushing them down. On the other hand, letting out anger through things like yelling and raging tends to make bad feelings worse, not better. So, the right way to deal with anger is to learn how to use patience and tolerance as antidotes to it, and to develop these traits, for example through meditation. Since anger usually comes from a mind that isn't happy, the first step in dealing with it is to work on being happy inside. Studies have shown that stress makes it easier to feel angry. Cultivating calmness and contentment can help reduce anger by making you feel less stressed. The Dalai Lama and Western scientific studies agree that the best thing to do when you're angry is to take a break and think about what's going on. Why was everyone so mad? How did it come to be? Is it destructive or constructive? When someone thinks about their anger in a logical way and tries to replace negative feelings with thoughts of patience and tolerance, their anger often fades. Face your anger and hatred, think about them, and replace them with patience and tolerance. Examining your thoughts, motives, and skills honestly can help you deal with anxiety and low self-esteem. Fear, anxiety, and worry are normal responses to certain situations, and everyone has them from time to time. But when they are too much or happen all the time, they can cause serious mental and even physical problems, like a weakened immune system or heart disease. There are many things that can cause anxiety, and there are also many ways to stop it. The Dalai Lama likes to challenge anxious thoughts and replace them with more positive ones, which is similar to how cognitive therapy is used in the West. Sometimes, something like asking someone you like out on a date can make you feel nervous. When this happens, it can help to think about why you are doing this. Most of the time, fear and anxiety go away when you realize that your intentions are good and true, like wanting to be kind to the other person. A lack of self-confidence is often linked to having too much anxiety, and the Dalai Lama says that the best way to deal with this is to be honest with yourself and others about your strengths and weaknesses. If you know your own limits, you can confidently say when you can't do something or don't know something and not feel bad about yourself. Low self-esteem can sometimes reach the point where a person hates themselves so much that they feel completely unworthy and may even think about killing themselves. To get out of this extreme state of mind, you should remind yourself that every single person, including you, has a great mind and the potential to grow. Tibetans think about this every day during their meditations, which may be why self-hatred is almost unheard of in their culture. Examining your thoughts, motives, and skills honestly can help you deal with anxiety and low self-esteem. What are the conclusions? You can be happy for a long time, but only if you train your mind from the inside. You can't be happy because of luck or money. Develop kindness, spirituality, and a flexible mind. These will help you deal with pain and suffering when they come up. This book answered the question, how can we be happy for the long term? Happiness that lasts can't come from outside sources, it comes from having the right attitude. Why do kindness, closeness, and spirituality make for a happier life? Having more compassion for everyone is one way to live a healthier and happier life. The Western idea of romantic love can be too narrow and often isn't enough to make a relationship last. Even though religious beliefs can help make you happy, you don't need them to be spiritual. How can we stop hurting ourselves and having bad thoughts? Pain is a normal part of life, but we often make it worse without needing to. We can only get rid of bad thoughts, feelings, and habits if we keep working at it. Learn how to change your point of view and look for the good in every situation. Face your anger and hatred, think about them, and replace them with patience and tolerance. Examining your thoughts, motives, and skills honestly can help you deal with anxiety and low self-esteem. Read on if you want to learn more. The Art of Communicating by Thich Nhat Hanh is a helpful book that shows how practicing mindfulness can help you become a better communicator. Using Buddhist wisdom, it shows you how to be a good listener, say what you mean, and improve your relationships with the people you care about. Thanks for watching.